If you've always been the one in your family who gets talked about, corrected, or quietly left out, and you've never fully understood why, I want you to hear something before we go any further. It's not because you're broken. It's usually because you're different. And different is something a lot of families don't know how to hold. I'm Reverend Paul, and for over 20 years, I've sat with families in crises, and I've noticed the same pattern more times than I can count. Every family has an unspoken system, a set of roles everyone is expected to play. There's usually someone who keeps the peace, someone who holds things together. And almost always, there's one person who doesn't quite fit the mold. Maybe they think differently. Maybe they feel things more intensely, or process the world at a different pace, or simply refuse to go along with the version of normal the rest of the family has agreed on without ever saying it out loud. And that person, often without anyone naming it, becomes the one who gets corrected the most, believed the least, and quietly gets pushed to the edge of the family circle. Here's what makes this so painful. It rarely looks like outright rejection. It looks like being the one whose feelings are too much, being the one who's told they're overreacting when everyone else's reaction to the same thing would have been treated as normal. Being left out of the group text, or out of the family joke, or out of plans, not maliciously necessarily, but consistently. Enough times that you start to wonder if the problem really is you. I want to be honest with you about something. Scripture actually addresses this directly, because this isn't just a modern psychology problem. It's ancient. Paul writes about this exact dynamic in his letter to Corinthian church when he's describing how a community is supposed to function. He says, "Nay, much more those members of the body which seem to be more feeble are necessary, and those members of the body which we think to be less honorable, upon these we bestow more abundant honor, and our uncomely parts have more abundant comeliness, for our comely parts have no need. But God hath tempered the body together, having given more abundant honor to that part which lacked, that there should be no schism in the body, but that the members should have the same care one for another." Think about what he's saying there. The parts of the body that seem weaker or less impressive or harder to explain, those aren't the parts you cut off. Those are the parts you protect more, not less. And when a family does the opposite, when they quietly minimize or exclude the member who doesn't fit in, that's not just hurtful. It's a departure from how God actually designed relationships to work. Difference was never supposed to be the disqualifier. It was supposed to be the reason for more care, not less. Now, if this is you, I know one thing you've probably felt: the temptation to shrink, to make yourself smaller, quieter, easier to explain, so the family stops treating you like the problem. And I want to gently tell you, that's not healing. That's just survival. It might keep the peace for a while, but it costs you something real every time you do it. There's another verse I want you to hear because I think it speaks directly to the ache underneath all of this. The fear that if your own family doesn't fully understand or accept you, maybe you're simply unacceptable. David writes in the Psalms, "When my father and my mother forsake me, then the Lord will take me up." That's not a throwaway line. David wrote that as a real possibility. The idea that even if your own parents, your own blood, might not hold you the way you need to be held. And his response wasn't despair. It was the confidence that being misunderstood by family doesn't mean you're unseen by God. There's a third piece of this I want to bring in because I think it explains why families do this in the first place. When Samuel was sent to anoint the next king of Israel, he looked at Jesse's oldest son and assumed that had to be the one. Tall, impressive, exactly what a king should look like on the outside. But God told him, "Look not on his countenance or on the height of his stature. For the Lord seeth not as the man seeth. For man looketh on the outward appearance, but the Lord looketh on the heart." Families, like Samuel, often measure by what's easy to see and easy to explain. The child who's confident, who fits expectations, who doesn't require extra effort to understand. That child gets treated as the easy one, the good one, the one who requires more patience. and the one who requires more patience, more curiosity, more actual listening. That's the one who gets labeled difficult, when in reality, they might just require more care to truly know. So here's what I want to offer you. Practically, if you've recognized yourself in any of this, first, stop trying to prove your worth by becoming less of yourself. That's a losing game because the goalpost will keep moving. Second, grieve the family dynamic you wish you had, honestly, instead of pretending it doesn't hurt. Grief and faith aren't opposites. You're allowed to hold on to both. Third, and this is important, you can still love your family, pray for your family, and even stay in the relationship with your family, while also being honest that the way they've treated the different one in the room has caused real damage. Loving people and being honest about harm aren't contradictions. They're both required. If you're at the point where staying close to certain family members is costing you your peace, I actually made a video walking through exactly how to know when stepping back is wisdom and not selfishness. I'll link it right below the video because it's the natural next step from where we are right now. And if you're the parent or the sibling or the one in the family who's realizing watching this that you might have been the one doing the excluding, I don't say any of this to shame you. I say it because awareness is where real change starts. The family that learns to bestow more honor on the member who seems weaker instead of less is the family that actually reflects what Paul was describing. If this video named something you've felt for years but never had words for, do me a favor and press that like button. It helps this reach the next person who spent their whole life wondering what's wrong with them, when the truth is, nothing ever was. I'm Reverend Paul. Whatever your family looks like right now, whole, broken, distant, or somewhere in between, you're not disqualified from being fully known and fully loved. I'll see you on the next one. God bless.